Welcome to Face with me, John Hammond, and today I'm in Palo Pinto County with the Sheriff of the county, Brett McGuire. Brett, welcome to Face. Thanks for making the time for us.
Thank you, John. Appreciate you coming out.
Well, I have to say it's been a little bit of a trek down the I-180 to get to you, but it's a big county, isn't it? So how big exactly is the county?
Palo Pinto County is 986 square miles.
Your county.
Now, obviously, we're about 28 to 30,000 folks that live in the county. Large cluster of those folks is around the Mineral Wells area and that, but we have City of Strawn, City of Mingus, City of Gordon, right. Santo, Grayford. We've got a lot of little communities scattered throughout the county and folks from corner to corner.
Okay, so with such a large size to cover, one would assume you've got a fairly large force, but I get the feeling that everybody here is pretty much stretched and reaching out to cover all of this area. Is that the case?
Yeah. Well, we're not any different than any other law enforcement agency anywhere. Whether it doesn't matter where. We all don't think we have enough folks.
Okay.
But in truthfulness, like I said, 986 square miles of county, and of course, we on days we do get stretched thin. We'll have 2 or 3 or 4 deputies out at any given time. So we try to cover the county the best that we can with the folks that we've got.
Excellent. And how long have you lived in the county yourself?
My family and I have lived in the county for 27 years.
Okay.
Yes,
and
sir.
Before that, were you in North Texas still?
Yes, sir. We were over closer to the Metroplex over by Eagle Mountain Lake for a couple of years before we came out here. We just had to find the right stretch of ground to buy out here before we got out here.
Tell us a little bit about your family, because we know about the man and the law enforcement, but there's always a good woman behind a good man.
Oh yeah. Anybody that knows me pretty much will know my wife, Gail. She and I have been married 28 years now.
Right.
I've got 2 grown adult children. One of my son is a teacher and up towards Wichita Falls area, and my daughter is actually a peace officer for a Metroplex police force. So we're proud of them both. We just recently, back in May, became grandparents, our first one. So we're kind of excited about that. My son and his wife had a little grandboy for us. So we're real excited about adding him to the family and getting to be the grandparents that spoil him. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so you've been in law enforcement for how many years?
Coming up on 30.
30 years.
Yes.
So what made you or motivated you to make the move into something that's really front line for the community, isn't it?
Well, that's actually kind of a funny question, because I started in public safety. About when I was 18. Even before I graduated high school, went into college. Okay. I started out on a volunteer EMS service. And then when I went to all that other fun stuff, went to college, I came out, and actually I started my public safety career as a firefighter paramedic. And I did that for a lot of years. Of course, firemen rub elbows with cops all day long. And I had a lot of friends on the police force where I was at. They kept trying to entice me over to, man, you want to get off the fire truck and, get in one of these. So I did a few ride-along, and actually the whole meeting and greeting, trying to solve crimes, trying to put clues together, and let's call it what it is, the prospect of putting bad guys in jail kind of appealed to me. Right. And so I made the transition over and became a cop almost 30 years ago, and loved every minute of it since.
Okay, so being a cop, you're on the front line, you're dealing with issues that include politics and social, moral behavior, all sorts of stuff. How important do you think it is, as the sheriff of a county of this size, to have public support?
Oh, it really doesn't matter whether it's a county this size or wherever you're at. My folks can't do their job. I can't do my job effectively if we don't have public support. Well, and going back a little bit in history, not trying to bore you, but 1829, Sir Robert Peel
Yes.
London.
Yes.
He was the gentleman that actually organized the first police department, as it were, around London,
Yes.
and that's where we got the term Bobbies, because
Absolutely.
they called them Bobby's boys.
Yes.
But he had, at the time, he had wrote 10 tenets for policing. And I'm not going to bore you with all of those, but a couple of the main ones were that the police exist because of public acceptance and public support, and that for us to do our jobs effectively, we still have to have the trust and maintain the trust of the public to do our jobs. And that the only difference, honestly, between, of course, the thought process was a bit different than when it was now, but his thought process was that the public and the police all have a responsibility to society. And we all have that responsibility. The difference being is that the police are the ones that are actually being paid to enforce the rules of society.
Okay.
But no, I mean, without, it doesn't matter whether you're in Palo Pinto County, doesn't matter whether you're in Fort Worth, doesn't matter whether, if you do not have public support, we can't do our jobs effectively.
Okay.
And and we're blessed out here. We really are in Palo Pinto County. Very pro law enforcement county. Very pro law enforcement county. And you'll run into the occasional few, but that's going to be everywhere. But by and large, the general population of Palo Pinto, very supportive of my troops, very supportive of this office, willing to help out this office, and we're very blessed out here.
It can't get better than that, can it?
Can't get better than
Absolutely.
that. No.
Let's talk briefly about the funding of the police department. There is an argument that says it should be funded by the United States, by federal government, and there's the argument that says it should stay with the local governments. Do you have a personal view on this as to where it would be best placed for the funding?
Oh yes, locally. My department, my agency, we are funded obviously by Palo Pinto County.
Sure.
Those budgets are administered by the Commissioner's Court of the county. Obviously, the taxpayers of this county pay into, by their taxes. That goes into the coffers. Then that budget money, and then my agency is funded via those funds.
Right.
We need to maintain local control over our law enforcement.
Right.
That the citizens are paying their taxes to this county. They need their local law enforcement funded by that county. Absolutely. And quite frankly, and when you start having the federal government fund anything, then you become beholden to the federal government and you lose local control. And the citizens who elect me, who support us, do not have nearly as much say as they do now if the feds take control of an agency. So, no, it needs to stay local.
Okay, on that note, we're going to take a quick break. Don't go away, we'll be right back, and I've got some compelling questions that I know Bet's going to want to answer. Don't go away. Welcome back to Face to Face with me, John Hammond, and I'm with Sheriff Brett McGuire in Palo Pinto County. Okay, so before the break, we looked at the last thing was actually funding. Should it be local or should it be national funding? Let's go real local now, Brett. So what do you think is the best approach to ensuring that we bring up good law-abiding citizens? Does it start when they're 5? Does it start when they're 10, when they're 15? At what point do you believe, and how do you believe, we can ensure that we are bringing up a generation of law-abiding citizens?
How long is this show? We could talk about this all day long, John. It starts young. It has to start young. I'm of that old generation. I'm of that old generation where we were, it started young with us, but it needs to. It needs to start young. Honestly and for truly, I think our parents nowadays, our parents nowadays are at a disadvantage to even when I was raising my kids up. Is that they are competing with those little boxes that their kids are carrying around called cell phones. And they're competing with the digital age and social media. And kids can get any kind of information they want to now with just a few clicks of their thumb. They can communicate with their friends instead of having to pick up a phone, the old rotary phone. And parenting is tough now. But these kids, in my opinion only, these kids need to have strong adult role models, whether that be their parents, and sadly now there's a lot of one-parent households. Things happen, but they need those strong adult role models. Parents need to be parents, not their buddies. And parents need to realize that they're competing with the cell phones and everything else, and they need to have a strong influence in these kids' lives as they're growing up, especially when they get into the teenage years where they become more mobile, they become a little bit more social, outwardly social,
Sure.
where they've got friends and they're going here and they're going there, but parents need to stay involved with these kids and understand that they're competing with a lot of outside influences with these kids right now.
Okay, Brett, so let's just look at the fact that we do face in this country, there are instances where things can get out of control. What do you think that we can do to make things safer for the community? Are there things that we can do that just to help to reduce the number of instances where there might be outbreaks of things that we just do not want in any society?
Well, and unfortunately, that's where we're at now. There's a lot of stories that are right at the forefront that we're not gonna. I think everybody knows where I'm going with that. Again, getting back to parenting, strong adult role models. We need to know our kids. We need to know the folks around. We need to watch for those subtle things, and not blaming it all on this. Just saying it's going to be a factor, and
Right.
it still is. Is that we really need to take a hard look at mental health care, and
Okay.
and those folks that are in they're in need. And unfortunately, a lot of counties, a lot of cities don't have the resources to satisfy those needs.
Right.
And unfortunately, we have tragedies that end up in our schools and things like that. I'm not going to sit here and say that I know the answers to all. Some people can claim bullying. Some people can claim, social media. Some people, whatever you want to. But we need to be aware. And I know that the teachers, the staff, the other students, they're making their best efforts to try to be aware of students' behavior, who may be at risk, who may not be at risk, but it's a community problem.
Yeah.
And it's a community problem, and we're going to have to come together as a community with all disciplines, law enforcement, the community as a whole, schools, everybody. We're all going to have to, the state,
Yes.
we're going to have to come together as a community to help get this fixed and
Right.
get this turned around.
Okay. Finally, and appreciate your candid approach to this.
Oh.
This is so good. Would you say that you have any kind of personal goal, or not ambition, that would be the wrong word, but something that you'd really like to achieve during your tenure as the sheriff? Something that you aspire, attain, or tenaciously want to go for,
I mean, other than retirement.
Other than retirement, yes.
Other than retirement. I've been doing this a long time. I always try to leave a place a little bit better than when I get here.
Right, that's good.
You know, and you know, there, what I have, I guess some of my goals may not be realistic, but what I would like to do before I leave here is, you know, at one time this department was only 5 deputies
Right.
total.
Okay.
We've obviously grown since then. I'd like to grow the agency even more. You know, whether we like it, don't like it, or otherwise, Parker County and the Metro Mess is coming this way. It's coming west. It's going to be a matter of time. I've found in my career that it's much better to be proactive and get ready for it and be set for it than it is to be reactive and go,
Exactly.
oh crud, and
Yeah.
we get caught with our pants down.
Yeah.
So my staff, and quite honestly, my staff and I have been working on that for the past several years, just trying to get us in a position where we're ahead of that power curve and we can be proactive instead of reactive and have to play catch up with things. So before I leave here, I'd like to, you know, try to get us as modern as we possibly can within reason. I understand that we're not a Houston PD where we're going to have all the whiz bang technological stuff, and we just can't do that out here. But get us as modern as we possibly can, and try to get us ahead of that power curve of the community growing and the county growing that we know is all coming.
Yeah. Brett, thanks very much for your time. That's all we've got time for today on Face to Face, but watch out and please join us next time.